Hey people, I found some writings, a bunch of writings that explain a lot of this tree. And throughout the years, they've had them mixed up. They have the tail of the dragon here at 1 and the head at 2. And here it's opposite. And here, they have the vine is Saturn, where here it's the head of the dragon, Rahu. And so I've been using this one while I was studying this. It has the most good information on it. So I'm going to do this backwards. I was reading, I got so far off track that I want to back through so I don't lose what I have. But I run into this word, Nister, N-S-T-T-R-E. And it's where your word sinister comes from, and minister. And it comes from the old Latin, Greek left, sinister. The left hand path, the sinister. When you see the angels talking to somebody, the angel's in the right ear and the devil's in the left ear, and the sinister, of the left side. And you can see the old obsolete spelling with the T-R-E instead of the T-E-R. Still from the Latin, sinister. And it's come to mean scary, accident, incident, disaster. On the right is the dexter. So their interpretation, this Y is light given. It's not here. They just give it that. And to a man whose way is left and has hedged in God whom. And so, what this is saying is somebody who's reading left, they done hedged in God. They done boxed it in of what they think it is. What this actually says is to giver. And so they say it's a man, but there's hundreds of words that mean man. And it's used during the laws, It's telling not a man, but what type of man. And so every time it says man, it'd be a bunch of different words. But this is the man to be the to giver, la giver, to giver, to give a raise. And the hyphen here, is the sinister. Have me read it the other way. And so I started this in, and the little mark here tells me turn around and go the other end of the word. So I read it to could durker, to K-U-D, and then 2 D's, D-R-K-R. To durker, dunster. And so dirk, is a little short dagger. Unknown origin, they always say that when it comes from Hebrew. But so to durker, is to giver the dagger. And dunster is said to be completely and utterly illogical and argumentative setting. But it comes from the ancient Dunster school. They have a Dunster house there in Harvard now. But it was an ancient city in Somerset. And they don't have any information of how the name come about. But they do say it's old enough. There existed formerly a harbor known as Dunster Haven at the mouth of the river. Yet today the coast, having receded, is now about half a mile from the village. No sign of the harbor. So it was a long time ago. So give a raise. I give a raise to anybody who could dirk or dunster. Who, why, who's S-K, and then backwards starts with the A, E-W-L, E-U-L. Whose school, and then all abode to, all abode. A place of residence, a home. Of give a raise to could dirk or dunster. Whose school we all abode to. And so I believe this Nestor, this is the ends, N'(S) tree, the ends tree. This is the Nazi, and this is the ends tree, the left-hand path. And so what this is a old letter N, and this is 2 of them cross, and N was the fish. This is two fish. Communism. Not communism, communism. Two fish. And this here it's not Z's. These aren't Z's. And so that's a clue right there. But what this is 4 G's. It's 4 feet. And this comes from the old book, Ancient Mu, Land of Mu. And this is the old language that was found in South America. But this is, the builders and the architects' marks. And so the 4, is the builder. And so this is the 4 builders. And the 3 here is the Wigger. The Wigger collective symbol of the sun Ra. So this is the ancient symbol of Nazis, and it means 2 men fighting. You see a cartoon with a dust cloud, and you see 4 feet sticking out, fist and feet sticking out of a dust cloud where they're trying to show 2 men fighting, and that's what that is. 4 feet. 2 men fighting. You see it a couple places in the Bible when Moses broke up 2 men fighting in Deuteronomy. If 2 men are fighting and one's wife grabs the other by the nuts, she gets her hand cut off. But that's what that is. It's a fight only when it's 2 men. You see they put the 2 underneath over here. And so it's to give what's WTS, what's sin in Nazi. So what's sin in Nazi is, anything that leads to a fight. Drinking whiskey, boy, they end up fighting. Mess around with somebody else's wife, it turns into a fight. You go to stealing my shit, it's going to be a fight. That's just sin. What's sin? The X is TS, WTSN. What's sin in knots? In knots to the mission. What's sin in knots to mission? Each do. So it's not Z's, it's 4 feet. 2 men fighting, the Nazis and the Nestor. So I figured out a bunch of these symbols when I was reading this, and I'll make another movie. I'm going to backtrack. I'll hit some of this while I'm reading. It'll lead me over here. You can see it better over here in Exodus 2:13, where Moses caught the 2 men fighting. And it's the Nazis. You replace that last M with an S. N-I-T-Z-T-Z-I-S. Nazis. And you can see that this word for Hebrews is O-V-R-I-S. Over is. It's not talking about slaves. The mission on seas over is. He's the one that's seeing over this mission, not a slave. Which so by in much us this shine, when a scene broke out. When a scene, the mission on seas over is Nazis, and yammer and said, of rush all me, take the rock. Hey, and said, hey, of rush all, both of y'all, run up on me, and you're going to take the rock. That's the same English we use today. Run up on me and take the rock. Smell what the rock is cooking. And so you see in this psalm, it comes up after this law with attack. And so then it's reading backwards. You can see it here. It's short. And Lord, before you all my desire and my sighing from you not is hidden and sinister. But this is in dang, I-N-D-A-N-G. Dang did it. D-I-D-D. In dang did it. The K, the final K, like the final M, I'm pretty sure that it switches up between a K and a T, depending on the markings. In dang did it call it. Backwards and forwards. To call it what? W-A-T. To call it what? Audi. And a nighty from mimic. Lower, lowered, L-O-E-R-T, lowered, to lower the sinister. Backwards and forwards, S-N-S-T-R-E. To lower it sinister. And she lowered it sinisterly. So sinister, it doesn't mean left. It means sinisterly, with a hidden agenda. So it's got a whole bunch of spellings, 80 occurrences, and majority of them just one time, with that a stir in there mostly. And so I'm sure that the word comes from a sin, meaning the moon. A stir is out stirring, a sinister, and under the cover of night. So most of this writing in here is poems and stories, and it's bouncing back and forth, and it's telling what's happening in the stars and the heavens, and then it's telling, how you're mimicking, what's coming from you, and so how we mimicking the heavens. And so in dang did it call it what oughty, in a nighttime mimicked, lower it sinister. He's talking all country here, and call it what he oughty. A nighttime, a nighty. That's where your word nighty comes from, A nighty comes from a nighttime, and then two M's from mit. MT is with, or from give. A nighttime from give. To lower it sinister. And so, at night, the sky takes its veil off. Takes off the veil of light, then you can see all the stars. And we mimic it on Earth, is what they're saying. And they mix the stories up. But it can also be sinister when it's following a word that ends with a S. Like this one they usually say is the heavens. So this, and it's hidden from his eyes, is annul me from seeing. To annul the marriage. To annul me from seeing, cliche. Don't make me have to see the same old words written over and over again. Hope, U-M-O-U-P, hope, and from hope. And then it's got the mark under here, so it reads inside out. The people writing these old cliches, and from hope. Hope has shame, to seem the days sinister. To see from Jimmy, the day sinister. And this next line starts with Abaddon. That's the one that takes the place of Apollyon in the Greek. But it doesn't read that way. It reads the other way, nude. Nude when in. Nude when in of, N-U-D-W-N-A-V. Nude when of. And then did in them what? Nude of when did in them what? And so did in them what isn't death and destruction. Did them in, if it was did them in, that's death, we don't did them in, but this is nude when of did in them what? Warm, buzzing, newsman. And we have heard a report about it. The buzzing, the newsman to schmo. And so this buzzing here, you got to catch this little line here, because it's nude when of did in 'em what? The warm amora, amore, the warm love, a bazing, and the newsman to schmo. A schmo is a stupid person, a jerk. But this schmo ends with the O-E, and that's an odal. It means the air. So the newsman, to use from modal, to air. So this next line down has got the word I was searching when I found this. It's got the little mark under here, But, without it, it reads EVIN, heaven. And with it, it's EVEN. It's still heaven. Heaven, and then IVIN, IVN. Heaven, IVN. It's talking about the nude went in, the love making. And the newsman to schmodel. And from Yale, heaven, IVN. And then the dot and the D is two D's, did. Did rock to who? I done rocked that girl. And I do, to knows. When he knows his wife, I do'd her. You gotta marry her first. I do. I do to the muffum fume. And so the muff is a hairy pussy. And from fume is to make it hot. From Yale, heaven I've in did rock to who? I do to the muffum fume. So this EVIN, they'll pronounce it heaven. And it's, the bet, the B or the VIN. And they'll say it's understands, understanding. But it comes from over here. Here it's just spelt the VINE or BINE. And there's the Bina, the understanding here. It's in Saturn. And here it's in Rahu, the understanding. But this one has a lot more meaning in it. It's the orto. That's where order come from. The order to sit, to sitten. And so it's not so much the place, but the sitten is spelled SITUN. It means to sit when. It means a time. And so the order is sit when, is the place and time. Up top here, this is the sign for 33. And so you can see where the starting point is. This is the mark of the tail of the dragon, the tail of the serpent. So the serpent represents time, so this is the end of time. And then you go to Cutter. They say this is the crown. But all these read backwards and forward the first time around. And it's the writ, RTKTR, the writ cutter. A writ is a legal paper, And first you go to the writ cutter and you make the deal before that soul gets put in the body. And so everybody thinks Saturn is death, but the Niven has another meaning. Backwards and forwards, ENIVIN. Comes from old Sanskrit word, Naveen, meaning new, fresh, young. You can see it in this one. The four-sided bundled vessel, or the seed of the plowed valley. So I'm going to backtrack some more in the next one, and it's going to tell more about why the confusion up here. Alright, I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.